Hey, welcome back. Okay, the next thing that we're going to learn is motivational interviewing for coaches. And actually, you've already learned some of the mechanics of motivational interviewing by learning the Proper IV tool. The Proper IV tool is designed to work with the concepts of motivational interviewing. Um, Motivational interviewing is all about finding the goals, the values, and the beliefs that the client has, and from those goals, values, and beliefs, you're wanting the client to articulate a vision of the future that is compelling to them, a vision of the future where they've made the changes that they would like to make. And you're going to contrast that with the client's status quo, the things that are happening right now, whether it's a situation they're in or certain behaviors that they're doing, certain attitudes that they have. And what you want to do is heighten the discrepancy between where they are now and where they would say that they want to be. In their own words, according to their own moral code, what is the life that they say they want to have versus the life that they currently do have? And the more you can heighten that discrepancy, the more they will be motivated to change. And the way to heighten that discrepancy is by using the Proper IV tool to elicit change talk from the client. You want them to articulate the reasons that the current status quo is not acceptable, and to articulate the reasons why this vision of the future would be preferable. Proper IV helps you to do that. So you're taking that Proper IV tool and you're sort of channeling it to heighten the discrepancy between status quo and the preferred future, and to get the client to be the one to make the argument for change. It doesn't really work if you make the argument for change. It's got to come from them. Okay, now, in order to understand how best to do this, it's important to know the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Okay? So, extrinsic motivation is basically either rewards or punishments. All right, it's either a carrot that you're giving them to propel them forward towards the direction that you would like them to go, or it's a stick that you can use to punish them if they go in the direction you don't want them to go. So, for example, at work, it might be, the desire to get a raise, more money, more status, things like that, a promotion, a raise. Those would be rewards. Maybe at home, there's some kind of a reward that they could get from their spouse or something, say, that in order for the spouse to get them to change in some way that they want them to change. Basically, any kind of reward will motivate somebody to change, but only as long as the reward is given when the desired behavior is performed. So as soon as the reward goes away, usually the change goes away too. Same thing with punishment. You can threaten to fire somebody, you can threaten to, leave the relationship, you can threaten all kinds of things. There could be legal consequences, whatever. But if all that's keeping this person from doing the thing that you don't want them to do is some kind of extrinsic motivator, some kind of a reward or a punishment, as soon as the heat is off, as soon as the reward goes away, they will revert back to the way that they were. And the reason is that at that point, you haven't tapped into their intrinsic motivation. Now, what is intrinsic motivation? Intrinsic motivation consists of goals, values, and beliefs. So those could be spiritual beliefs, they could be personal beliefs, whatever. But what you're wanting to do with your clients is find out what are their goals, what are their values, what are the things that they would say are right, the things that they would say are wrong, what are their beliefs. And if you can find an intrinsic motivator to link to their change process, that's a very compelling reason to change. You don't have to reward them, you don't have to threaten them. They're going to want to change because this is the person that they see themselves to be, or this is the person that they would like to be, is the person that is changing in a way that aligns them with their goals, their values, and their beliefs. So when you're using Proper IV, what you're trying to do is get them to talk about or articulate what a compelling vision of the future would be to them. You know, something that they would be excited about, not because somebody else is telling them to do it, but because they want to become this person who has a life like the one that they're articulating to you. And Proper IV is the perfect tool to do that. You can do that by asking them open questions about things like, what would you like, if you're successful here in coaching, what would you like your life to look like in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years? If we're successful in coaching, what would your business look like? What would your marriage look like? What would your relationship with your kids look like? What would your friendships look like? What would your physical condition look like? What would your spiritual life look like? And just get them to paint you a word picture of what the good life would look like for them. And then you can ask them things like, well, if you keep doing the things that you're doing now, how is that going to get there? Like, help me understand how what you're doing now and where you say you would like to be, how do those go together? And if the answer is, well, they really don't, well, now the client has already made an argument for change. Okay? So that's kind of the main concept of motivational interviewing. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the change process as I see it, and help you to see what it looks like to move somebody from, not changing at all to not only making the change, but maintaining the change in their life going forward, making a permanent change. And the thing to understand about this is that change is not a single event. It is a process. Okay? People don't typically go from not changing at all, not even thinking about change, to suddenly they're going to change. And when you understand that change is a process, it really takes the pressure off. You don't have to move somebody in one meeting from not changing at all to, completing the change. It's a process. There's multiple steps in the process. And in the next video, I'm going to walk you through what some of those steps are, and then how to come alongside a person in each one of those phases of change, because it's different. The way that you come alongside somebody who isn't even thinking about change is totally different than coming alongside somebody who is actively working a change process. Okay, so that'll be the next video. Also, be sure to read the training workbook on this topic of helping your clients to create change in their life. I'll see you in the next video.